Hey there, it's meteorologist Jamie Singleton. A little bit frantic today because I've got so much going on, and not to make it about me, but haven't had any sleep since what was it, night before last? We had a playoff game last night with Cable 12, so getting that on the air and also watching the system move in. And we told you yesterday on Patreon and on the free stream that I did think we were going to have some active weather as early as the morning, and that's indeed what's happening here. So we're going to try to go over everything with you here. I tend to get a little long-winded sometimes, so just stay with me here because some of this stuff's going to be breaking, I think, as we are on the air. And so that's going to be a concern for us here as we go into the next couple of hours and really for the rest of the day. Please, please, please share this content. I've got it time-stamped, but I need all of you to share this because in the coming 2 to 5 hours, things are really going to get nasty for a few of us, especially closer into the Roanoke Valley area in Southside. We've already had a confirmed, or at least a report of a tornado down around North Carolina, and several warnings in effect too. So let's get right to it. The first thing I'm going to draw your attention to is a special weather statement. Now, that's not the most severe statement you can get, but I believe there's a reason for this. This is a line of heavy rain moving in from Henry County into Rocky Mount, and gusty winds of 40 miles per hour. Now, I can tell you, I drove up on one of these squalls coming back from the football game, and this is what I came across. I always preach this when you're out and about, especially for the morning commute or the evening commute tonight or later on tonight. Some of these trees are coming down. It's not even that windy because they're just weak and they've just been waiting to fall. So there were about 20 mile per hour winds right here near Clover on the Halifax Charlotte County line. This was, I believe, 92, if I've got my memory correct, right before you get to 360. The stop sign would be right past here by about a tenth or 2/10 of a mile. I was able to cross on this left side here, but I tell you, called dispatch and said, we need to get somebody out here to block this road off, because I was actually going about 10 to 15 miles per hour under the speed limit. Had I been going the speed limit, which was, I think, about 45, I would have probably hit this, because it was kind of foggy. There are leaves all over the place, and that's another concern too. The leaves are making the roads very slick as well. But that's not the most immediate concern at the moment. The most immediate concern at the moment is the fact that we've got some rotation out there in some of these storms. So let's see what the special weather statement says. Yeah, they mention, the National Weather Service mentions that we do have weak rotation with these storms. So I've got it up on the screen here. I'm going to try to see if I can find that rotation. And we get this rotation a lot with tropical systems. This is a favored area of rotation. It's not very tight. It's weak, as the National Weather Service mentioned. But I'd say right there near Oak Level, we do have some rotation. We've got, let's see, some outbounds here. And this is the actual velocity. So this is it's kind of complicated. You ideally you want to take out the motion of the storm, but right, if it's going to let me draw here, right there in the Franklin County and Henry County, and of course, because everything's been going crazy, my telestrator is not going to want to work. So you just look at the mouse, okay? But right here through Oak Level, this is wind going away from the radar, wind coming toward the radar, just moving into southern Franklin County around the Henry area. If we take into account the storm motion, it's a little more dramatic, but it's a little more linear as well. I'm looking at the different elevations here because we can look at, up into the storm somewhat, and you can see a little bit more in the way of broad rotation there. So yeah, that's a concern, and we definitely want to keep our eye on this, because as the coming minutes happen here, we're probably going to end up with these things trying to develop on top of us and maybe cause some problems out there. So that's something we need to keep an eye on for sure. So we got some weak rotation there. I'm also watching, the heavier rainfall that's occurring within this. And then, of course, you've got more activity that's kind of filling in here. We've got numerous flash flood warnings in effect through the area where we expected this. We expected a lot of rainfall into the Boone area. You can see some of the rivers there. The Watauga River is at minor flood stage. We've got a storm report. Boone Creek flooded the parking lot at the Boone Mall, stranded several vehicles. That report was relayed from Twitter. And you can see big flash flood warning in effect here. It covers Avery County into western North Carolina here until 4 p.m. Burt County, Caldwell County, Mitchell, McDowell County. Basically, that's the area north and east of Asheville, and right before you get to Boone. So there's probably going to be some more flash flood warnings in effect for western North Carolina, and maybe even into the NRV. But it's a different story. As I mentioned, it was the perfect setup for two things. You were going to have either the flooding taking place, or you were going to have the tornado threat. And again, we've got both of them here. So that's the concern here. So like looking into North Carolina where this warm front is, we've got a current tornado warning in effect that remains in effect for Warren County. For you folks in Mecklenburg County, this is just to your south. It's a very small polygon near Warrenton, in between Littleton there. But we did have a report not too long ago that came in from a firefighter and an amateur radio operator. So two people reported a funnel cloud at U.S. Highway 1 in North Carolina 56. That's near Franklinton, North Carolina. and that's just north of Wake Forest to kind of get your bearings. There have been numerous tornado warnings throughout the morning, the early morning, and it's all right along this warm front here. This is another funnel cloud report that we had coming in at 8 o'clock this morning. In Chatham County, that's to the west of Pittsboro, North Carolina. That's to the east of Asheboro, near US 421 and Siler City Snow Camp Road. So several reports of funnel clouds from various sources that you can pretty much confirm it when you've got firefighters and trained amateur radio folks saying this is going on. Plus the environment's just that favorable for it. So we'll keep our eye on the current tornado warning, which is heading towards Ebony, Virginia, and South Hill. You may want to watch out too, because I'll put this in motion. These storms are moving up to the north, and you can see the various tornado warnings that have been in effect with that line. And I did mention, I said, we were going to have the possibility of these extended lines here going out well away from the center of Nicole. Nicole's still down here in Atlanta, but a far-reaching swath of developing storms, and they're rotating because we've got that wind shear. You can see these wind barbs here. They're coming in out of the south and out of the west, but aloft we're coming in out of the south and out of the southwest. So we're going southeast to southwest, and that's enough for wind shear, plus the atmosphere's very moist. So let's look back to this Oak Level storm here, because that's one of particular concern for me here. I'm looking just north of Oak Level, and I am seeing a little bit more in the way of linear rotation. Again, it's fairly weak, but it's enough for the Weather Service to hoist that special weather statement. And you can also see some signatures here showing up where you see the brighter colors next to the darker greens. If I put the storm relative velocities on, you'll see the reds and the greens. These are showers and storms that are trying to get rotating. And if you've kept up with our tornadic events, you note that this area tends to be the genesis of a lot of our tornadic storms. They, for some reason, want to pop up over Wilkesboro and Mount Airy and Patrick County, and then they move farther off to the north and to the east. And that's what we're expecting throughout the rest of the day today, but there will be more activity kind of developing out in advance of that. So I'm going to keep an eye on this thing because I'm a little bit worried about the southern Franklin County storm, but also want to show you some other things that are going on. We've got numerous showers across the NRV, and these are tropical rain showers, by the way. So they definitely are putting down a lot of rain. That's deceiving, because even as I was driving last night, it was just raining, but the roads were already washed over. And this was in the dry area. This was in Halifax County, where the leaves were brown, and they're in a little bit of a drought there, actually. The roads, just because of the rain rate, tropical air holds a lot of water. So give you a little more of a detailed look at here where the rotation is in Franklin County. Sidnersville to Fort Mountain, that special weather statement just expired, so that's some good news. Let me see if I can get my chat up here, because I do have a direct link with the National Weather Service. I can't show you that legally, but I can jump on here and read it kind of off the screen and see what their thoughts are on some of these things. So I've got to log back in here for a second while that loads. We'll continue to watch that. So now they've issued another one. I didn't think they were going to totally cancel that. That's why I kind of paused when I said it. But so now they're basically highlighting Franklin County 220 from Rocky Mount, especially the west side of Rocky Mount, down to Barfoot. They're near the park there, Wade's Park, and going down just east of Ferrum and into Oak Level. So almost following the 220 corridor, but a little bit farther to the west. And these are, again, moving up. If I put this in motion, this will be 7 frames. You can see moving kind of fast and also training over the same areas. So there's going to be some water problems in here as well. But from Oak Level, you can see some kinks in the line too. From Oak Level into even west of Rocky Mountain. I just updated the town a second ago, even just east of Cahays Mountain. We need to watch out. And any of these little showers could get the spinning. So that's the concern. I'm going to really try to get this telestrator working. I'm going to try one more time. Let's see. I've got about 15 billion windows up. While I do that, I'll keep you from leaving the stream and pop up some more information for you here. This is a critical part of what's happening is the temperature gradient. I talked about this yesterday, and I know these arrows look a little bit confusing, but I put them up here for a reason. And let's see, I'm going to back this up just a bit here, because we actually have a bit of a wedge. You can see temperature 63 in West Virginia, 64 in Roanoke, but then you move into Lynchburg and areas to the south and to the east, and it's 10 degrees warmer. Why is that? Well, we have this coastal front that's pushing in from the south and from the east. And what it's doing is it's running into this cooler air. What that does is it enhances spin right along the warm front. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, that's where we've had all the tornado warnings today. And if I pop this up, this is a look at the rotation that we've seen. This is off of my GR Earth program here. Let's see. I think I can get that in motion. You can see the tracks are right there. I had that in motion just a second ago. So yeah, there we go. Just had to load up a little bit. You can see the warnings that were put out, and you can see how that correlates with the track. It's actually pretty neat to watch. It's almost scary though when they're that confined. I'll let this load one more time as I zoom in a little bit. By the way, not to bury the lead here, but Lynchburg, Amherst, Pittsylvania County, Henry County, areas to the east, all the way to Richmond, all the way to the coast, you're under a tornado watch for the rest of the afternoon. So that's something you want to take seriously. In and around the watch area is something you want to watch, because as this continues to load here, and I'll show the most recent animation, you can see that there are distinct tracks of rotation. And you see that one that moved north of Raleigh into Henderson, North Carolina. That was the report of the funnel cloud. So now we've got a new tornado warning out, it looks like, for Mecklenburg County. And I'm loading my chat up here as we speak. But you can follow that track. These are not spin-ups, and that gets me when people say that, because these are actually long-tracked areas of rotation. And it doesn't matter if it's a long-tracked tornado or a brief tornado or an isolated tornado. If it hits your area, it's a tornado. So I'm going to read you this text here as you look at South Hill, areas just to the east of 85, to the west of 95 there. Tornado warning for southeastern Mecklenburg County and Brunswick County as well until 12:15. We've got a severe thunderstorm producing a tornado located near Ebony, 9 miles northwest of Warrenton, moving north at 30 miles per hour. And the dangerous storm is going to be near Ebony and Brunswick around 12:10. Other locations, let's see if I can get these right. White Plains and Bowen's Corner and Lake Gaston. I've heard of that for sure. Take cover now, move to a basement. If you're watching me in that area, I used to just have a local Roanoke following, but with Facebook and everything, there's Ebony there on your screen. It looks like it's going to go just to the east of South Hill. Now, this is just one particular storm. Keep in mind that I'm watching rotation coming out of Henderson as well. We're looking at where the spin has tracked. And it doesn't just jump like it looks like it's doing. That's where the radar has to scan. It takes it about 5 minutes, so you'll see these little jumps of red. But that's really a continuous track of rotation there as it continues to move into now crossing the state line there out of Macon, Vaughn, and now going into Ebony. And that's, again, Brunswick County and Mecklenburg County, just eastern Mecklenburg County. But I do think that it's mainly Brunswick here. I'd watch out around Lawrenceville here as well. And let's see. Anywhere between Emporia and South Hill, you need to really be paying close attention here. But look what's happening. Again, we're watching this Franklin County storm. You see where the tornado watch ends. I mentioned that, technically Franklin County is not in the tornado watch, but the rotation doesn't care. It's if the environment's favorable, and it is, you can see that rotational track, not quite as strong as what we had in North Carolina seconds ago, but we're getting into the yellows here. And if we get into the burgundies, we're looking at, I'll move it back over. See those burgundies there, or reds? We're getting close to maybe getting a tornado warning in Franklin County if this rotation were to strengthen. And then you can see these other streaks here coming out of the tornado watch. The atmosphere, again, it's going to do its thing. And even though the watch is drawn, the weather, of course, does not follow county lines. And so you'll hear the Storm Prediction Center say, and the National Weather Service say things very smartly in and around the watch area. So watching that storm there in southern Franklin County, and again, there's going to be more, and also the flooding potential going on with rotation as well in western North Carolina there. So that's the immediate concern. I'm going to pop up. So we've got now a new special weather statement coming in. Again, it's 75 degrees there at South Hill. We've got a new special weather statement where we've also got a flood watch in green, by the way, for these areas, Floyd County and Patrick County, down toward Mount Airy. And we've got some flood warnings in effect now for western North Carolina. New special weather statement for 40-mile-per-hour winds in western Patrick County, west of Stewart. It expires in about 21 minutes. So that is something that we want to watch. And I think I can go to the radar and show you what's going on with that one as well. Doesn't look too impressive on radar, does it? That's near Ararat and getting near Vesta. And again, that's an area we call a lot in these situations. But if you look at the past images here and you look at the greens, the storm relative velocities is what this is. You can see a little bit of a notch there. It looks like it's trying to weaken a little bit to me, but they may be looking up into the storm some as well. These things tend to happen though. Oh, I see. There's the very latest image. So you've got the greens going toward the radar and the reds going away from the radar. And this is crossing out of Stokes County and moving into Patrick County. And that is a special weather statement, but it's a special weather statement with a special tag. Also notice this. Look at the topography here. Tornadoes can hit mountains. They don't care either. So they don't follow the boundaries of a tornado watch. They don't care if there's a mountain in place. If the ingredients are strong enough, they're going to happen. And unfortunately, with landfalling tropical systems, even like Nicole, it's a weak tropical storm, tropical depression, you get this wind shear. So you're looking at 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's moving north at 25 miles an hour into Patrick County. And that's going to knock down some trees and tree limbs that have been weakened basically over the summer and going into the fall. But you definitely should already be seeking shelter just in case in western Patrick County. And I'd watch out around Floyd and Woolwine as well. But I'm also seeing some rotation developing here around Mount Airy and Dobson. There's probably going to be a few more special weather statements around Sparta as well, as I'm seeing just about all of these trying to develop some kind of a kink here. And just updating the one around Rocky Mount, you always have to compare where the radar is at. So the radar is right there at that circle. That's what's known as the cone of silence. The radar can't shoot directly up into the air, but you need to know, you can't just look at red and green. You need to have that relative to the radar site. So, the line needs to be like right across here and not linear like we would see. So if I go up a little bit farther in elevation, you do see the greens and the reds more parallel to a line if you extended it out from the Floyd County radar. So if you, this is at, let's see, this is at about 3,000 feet where the majority of the rotation is, but it's also going down to 2,400 feet. And with all the moisture in the air, you only have to get that spin down to about, well, the spin can develop at around 1,000 feet or so, or even less. And that tends to make it very easy for a funnel cloud to become a tornado because you've got so much moisture in the air. The circulation does not have to reach as far to the ground, if that makes sense. Basically, you're allowing the cloud to get very close to the ground, and we have fog out there, and that's actually a sign of what we're talking about. It's a cloud on the ground. So a couple of special weather statements out for that. Also still looking at this possible tornado here around Ebony. The South Hill is reporting 74-degree dew points. That's very high. There's more rotation down towards Centerville here. So these are kind of training in a line. And I'm looking pretty far away now from the National Weather Service radar and in Blacksburg, but I'm also seeing a bit of a lightning jump here, and these wind velocities now are getting higher too. I don't like seeing that. Now I am looking at the mid levels of this storm from Blacksburg. We're looking at about 47 mile per hour winds. What I'm going to do is we're going to jump over here. We're going to open up a new window. And again, please share this out. I know the viewership's got to be dropping because it tends to, if you're not right in the area, it tends to get boring for some folks. But this is the real deal. And it just annoys me so much to hear maybe a brief spin up, maybe something isolated. Well, you know, that's all of our tornadoes. They don't travel in herds, and they don't last all day. They're all brief and isolated, in my opinion. All right, so this is looking at the National Weather Service Wakefield office. I was just passing by there on 360 last night. So what I'm going to do is you can see a clearer picture of the reflectivity. This is the base velocity. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this could be the real deal here because that's very pronounced. That's near Ebony, and again, I don't think Mecklenburg needs to worry about this, but definitely Brunswick County, southeast Brunswick County, and that could continue up to Lawrenceville. And again, that's Emporia there. You've got the, you've got the, what is it, 360, and you got 58 out through here. So I'm going to get the roads up here in just a second, but I want to put the storm relative velocities on. I'm looking at debris possible in this. It's a little bit hard to tell. The winds are shifting. They're blowing at different rates, and that's what's causing these gray images to become orange and yellow and red. That's an indication of rotation, and it's right where, my goodness, it's right where you see that. I mean, I don't have to really say much. That's just so pronounced. Let's take this beam up so you can see. I want to find out how much urban development we have out here. So we just take that off and we look at the satellite. It looks mainly rural, but there are neighborhoods out here that are going to be affected by this, that are being affected right now, possibly by this, what looks to be, let's see, this is hitting about 4,000 feet. It looks to be a, very strong rotation. So it would not at all surprise me if this actually developed into something. And if I smooth it out here, you'll probably see a bit of a hook right there. That could actually be the inflow notch right there, just to the south of Ebony. But I like to look at the pixels in a case like this as well. And I can see bigger drops being lofted up into the updraft out ahead of the storm. That's what's known as a ZDR arc, if you want to get kind of geeky there. But seriously though, Ebony, watch out. Now let me go over to my better mapping here. So we'll go to the Wakefield radar, Lawrenceville, and the areas in the polygon right now include Boyer's Corner, Cedar Grove, there's Ebony, and Route 626, 644, White Plains, Hicks Mill, Merchant, you're in the path of this. Also, watch out around Brunswick, as I mentioned, there on 611. Did I have my roads right? Yeah, there's 58 right there. Governor Harrison Parkway, what I guess locals know it as. There's 85 off to the west, so it's just east of 85. But for folks that are traveling, you know, coming up from North Carolina, coming in the South Hill, then are going to take 58 to the east. I even warned the football crew last night at our opponents. I said, watch out. Tomorrow's going to get weird. And that's what's happening here on 611 here. I can zoom in a little bit more. Alvis Road, Dry Bread Road. Please share this out, especially because it's on the edge of our, you know, immediate area. And the more sharing I can get, the more chance maybe somebody's family member or a friend that may not be near a TV or radio or whatever, or weather radio. You want to have all those things on, but if I can help you out in any way, I'm going to do it. That's what I do. Now let's read the actual warning here. The tornado warning remains in effect until 12:15 for Brunswick County. That's southwest Brunswick County. I can bet you they're going to extend this, and they may end up calling it a radar confirmed tornado. It's expected now around Brunswick at 12:10. White Plains and Bowen's Corner there. That is a scary looking radar image. I can go back to our storm relative velocity, which takes, again, it basically takes out the storm motion, and it looks at the wind within the storm itself. What's going on if you were to erase the storm motion and just load high res velocity. I have a lot of windows open. So while we wait on that, I've got some more ways to look at this. I kind of show you, there we go. There's your storm relative velocity and your high res velocity. You don't even need storm relative velocity, and that's never a good sign. When it's very obvious like this, you know, when it jumps out of green and goes to blue, let's see, we can measure that. Yeah, let's see. So that's the radar is picking up 70 mile per hour winds, 70 to 75 mile per hour winds over Route 717 in Brunswick County, heading toward Wakefield, and it's picking up 11 to 10 or 11 miles per hour winds, heading away from the radar site. Now again, it's hitting at about 2,500 feet, so it's not going to be perfect. The tornado itself is not this whole area. The tornado itself is probably way down in the middle here. And you can see we've got negative 80.53 mile per hour wind showing up. And this continues updating because the National Weather Service, they'll start spinning that radar real fast when there's a situation like that. That's another indicator that this is a very, very serious storm that's headed toward Bowers Corner and White Plains. You're getting a lot of lightning there. That's kind of God's way of warning you. It's a natural warning, and then studies have shown that lightning jumps and tends to increase out ahead of these tornadic storms sometimes. Route 717, Route 663 in the path of this. Again, Brunswick right here, and I do think it's going to try to move more right, even though the polygon kind of covers all the way back, almost back to the county line here. And again, now in Mecklenburg County, you're clear. And I projected that, but these tend to turn right with time because of the rotation. They deviate from the mean wind here. So getting into, again, Brunswick, and I think maybe we'll have to worry about Fort Christina, and I would just watch out around Lawrenceville as well, because I think this may hold on a bit, and it could even move a little bit closer to perch store, and 58 here as you move into pleasant shade as well, depending on how well it holds together. But we can put this in motion, and you can see the overall motion is to the north, but the circulation has tightened so much that it's trying to tug it off to the east a bit. And so it's pretty difficult here. But basically the zone is 644. And that's one of the more impressive signatures of rotation that I have seen in quite some time. And I think the last time I saw that much, we had a confirmed tornado. I think the last time I saw something like that was the Forest tornado. There's your correlation coefficient. This would pick up maybe even debris, and it's hard to tell, but there could be some there around Bowers Corner. It's not really well defined. When it does hit something, you will see usually you'll see a very concise area of yellow that sticks out. In this particular program, it looks a little bit different. So we'll go back to your velocity here, and I'm going to pull up. This is an area basically that just shows the rotation. Okay, so I've got all the radar stuff off here. So let me just get your bearings for those of you just joining us. We've had a few more wind reports coming in. 2 trees down in Henry County near Fieldale, 2 miles northwest of Fieldale, near the intersection of George Harrison Road and the Great Road. All right. I don't know why they didn't put my report up there yet, but whatever. It's on Twitter and Facebook. Anyway, this is the big one here, this one right now into Brunswick County. And the radar, our program here, my program's even picking up on that rotation there in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. I haven't even got a vector on this, but oh my goodness, that's a donut hole almost. So what you're seeing, what you could be seeing, is the rain and possible debris wrapping around the actual mesocyclone or tornado. You got a little hole there in the middle. So this whole thing is spinning. And it can wrap debris and rainfall around. Let's look and see if we see any debris. Nothing defined, okay? It's not very defined. But that doesn't mean it didn't hit anything, because the lowest we can get is 4,500 feet. So beneath this, we could have debris. And we may end up getting some reports here very shortly out of this area. This is Brunswick County to the southwest of Alberta and Lawrenceville. You're under a tornado warning, and it's a strong tornado, strong rotation anyway, possible strong tornado, and it remains in effect until 12:15, so for another 6 minutes. But if it keeps up, they're going to have to extend it. It's near Brodnick's, moving north at 30 miles per hour. It's almost moving north-northeast, but yeah, it might. Yeah, it's a little bit, just a hair east of north. But that's going to put it very close to Lawrenceville. And if you go in here on the satellite, this is more of a populated area. There's more stuff that could get tore up in the wake of this. I kind of like to just see who's underneath this. Mainly just country roads, kind of like we have in Franklin County. But that's somebody's homes and businesses that could be getting either hit by some straight line winds, or certainly some damaging straight line winds and possible tornadic activity. Let's put a vector on this thing. So what we do is, there it is in motion. What I do manually is I reverse the imagery. So I'm going to put a marker here. This was not too long ago, and then we advance it, and the program, if I follow the marker correctly, that cell right there will say store motion from marker. So it's going to interpolate for me how fast that storm's moving, and then it's going to subtract the store motion, and that's when we end up with storm relative velocity. Okay, so we subtracted how fast the storm's moving so that we can just look at the wind in the storm itself. and it's still pretty tight circulation, pretty strong circulation. And if you go up from zero point 0.5 degrees to zero point 0.9 degrees, now this is higher up, but my goodness, now we're out of the greens and we're into the yellows. That's 81 mile per hour winds going toward the radar in a storm relative fashion. And then you've got wind going away from the radar at about 40 miles per hour. If you look at just the base velocity here, 41, 47, up to 52 mile per hour winds toward the radar, and away from the radar, you're looking at 8 or 9. Now, keep in mind, the radar's not going to see all of the tornado. It may broaden at times. These things tend to cycle. And again, we're in Brunswick County, Virginia. We can see a little notch there in the reflectivity. Let's see if we have anything on the correlation coefficient. We do have a drop, but it's too hard for me to tell if that's debris or not. Usually a debris will show up very distinctly. However, what's complicating things is it's kind of in an area where if there was debris, that could be some leaves and branches and things of that nature, lighter amounts of debris kind of scattered in the air. It's a little bit inconclusive as far as that's concerned. Bigger raindrops and melting hailstones are showing up there in the non-cranberry colors. I know that seems a little bit confusing, but you may actually see some, I don't know if you'd see hail or just a lot of rain. I think that's what that is. It's just a ton of rain because it's tropical. We don't usually see hail in tropical systems. But if we look at the shape of the raindrops, the higher, bigger, fatter raindrops are being blown into the circulation and blown up to the north. And now we do have a new tornado warning in effect now that includes Lawrenceville. So the rest of Alberta, as I mentioned, basically the same areas I was just talking about there, under a tornado warning now, including the Brunswick Airport. Let me do a couple things here. I keep having to do this every time I open up this program. There we go. We'll make that easier to see, and I'm going to read you this warning. National Weather Service in Wakefield's got a tornado warning for central Brunswick County, south central Virginia until 12:45. This was right over Brunswick, and it was moving northeast now at 35 miles per hour, so it's moving a bit faster. And I can tell by the wording they are getting more confident that this is a radar indicated tornado. If you've got a report and it's safe, you can tweet them at National Weather Service Wakefield VA, or you can call 757-899-2415 or post it to their Facebook page. Only if it's safe. Don't go out there and stand out and wait for this thing. It's going to come up on you real fast, and you will not be able to get out of the way. You want to go ahead and take cover from Alberta down to Lawrenceville. Take cover now, move to a basement, an interior room, maybe a bathroom, get the bathtub, put a mattress over you. And I want to keep mentioning that this is on the outskirts of our area, but we do have some rotation that we're watching a little bit closer to home, and I think we may see some tornado warnings as this warm front continues to push in from the south and east closer into Roanoke. We've actually got a flash flood warning now for Roanoke. We'll talk about that in just a second. I'm going to get back to this tornado real quick here, or the possible tornado. It looked pretty likely a second ago, and the circulation's kind of cycling at the moment. So you see how strong it was right there. That was just about 5 or 10 minutes ago, and now it's kind of weakening a little bit. As it moves farther away from the center of the storm, Nicole, you're going to lose some of that wind shear. But even that being said, if you have a lot of wind shear, these things tend to be somewhat fragile, as strong as they are. So you'll see them cycle. You'll see it spin into something kind of big and very pronounced on radar, and then a couple of scans later, it doesn't look as defined as we see right there. That's still enough for concern for me, and that's obviously why they have the tornado warning out. You still see the reds and the greens still together, and again, you want to look at the radar site relative to that and see what's going on. So we'll put the marker here just so we can kind of highlight the area where the possible tornado is. I'm going to go up in the atmosphere a little bit. The upper levels are more impressive with this thing, which is kind of amazing. Usually in a tropical system, you would see the lower levels have the most rotation, but it's the just off the ground where we're seeing the really pronounced rotation. But again, it doesn't take a lot. Now that we've got all this moisture in the air, we got dew points at 74. That's balmy August air. Those are dog days of summer type humidity. Even though it's kind of cool, the dew point makes the difference because the cloud can get down to the ground that much faster. So, I show you this and you say, okay, Jamie, that's at 8,000 feet. Yep. But it's reaching toward the ground and it's trying to get to the ground. And I will draw your attention to the fact that if you go upstream into Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, south of Roanoke Rapids, you see some more rotation here south of Hollister. No special weather statement yet, no alert just yet, and we get some range folding. That's just basically where the radar kind of just screws up for a second. But this is also rotating as well. Down here into North Carolina, east of Henderson and northwest of Rocky Mount, North Carolina. But you can see the arc. That's kind of a backwards hook, if you will, and that's something we look at when we look at rotating storms. You can almost kind of see an inflow notch there as well. Lawrenceville may be taking this, and it may be lucking out if it's cycling. They may be getting lucky there on that. If it can stay weak as it passes over Lawrenceville, that would be the best case scenario. The worst case scenario would be if it tightened up like it was a second ago and moved. It's going to probably move right over Lawrenceville, whatever it is. It may be a funnel cloud. It may just be straight line winds. Maybe just a wall cloud, but you can see the lightning there continues to increase. Ebony's in the clear for right now, but you've got more storms there off to your south. So we're watching that too. So let's get back a little more local. We'll keep that in mind though, okay? Brunswick County, tornado warning till 12:45 now. And again, this may continue to extend as we go into the rest of the day. The Storm Prediction Center now has a mesoscale discussion out. But I've got some stuff I need to talk about here at home. Again, please, please, please stay tuned. Don't tune me out. Share me. And if you've got to step away, I understand. But be a hero, call a friend, and share this with them. Send it. You can send it on their messenger or whatever. Roanoke is under a flash flood warning. And this is because it's just raining so hard, so fast. You say, well, we haven't had all that much rain. We've had a few inches over the past week or so in some spots, about 1 to 2 for most areas. But the fact that this is tropical rain coming down, and we'll put up the radar, you can see all that heavy, heavy rainfall. Tropical rain is different. It's a warm cloud process. There's no ice crystals in these clouds, okay? So we've just basically we're taking like 5-gallon buckets of water and pouring it out of the sky. And that's where you get rainfall rates that cause flooding. So you could be in a drought. You can have very dry conditions, and you can have a tropical system move over and dump a quick 3 or 4 inches of rain an hour, and it's going to flood either way. So let's read this. This is until 6:15 this evening, so that's a long duration event. The topography is such, and I'll kind of erase the radar. You can see windy gaps here. There's a lot of mountainous terrain. If you travel Boone's Mill there, into Starkey and into Cave Spring and Clearbrook as it loads up there, you see the scenery. You got Hayes Mountain there off to the west. The mountains actually enhance that rainfall, but what they also do is they enhance the runoff. So you can see all these little valleys and areas where the water's just going to go to the lowest point, and it'll go into Maggie Creek probably. It'll also run into the Mudlick area and the Cave Spring. Starkey area can flood there. That includes most of Roanoke City because Roanoke is in a bowl, and we all know how Campbell Avenue can flood. That's an ongoing issue there. So this is a good call by the National Weather Service here. They've already had about, let's see, heavy rain 1 to 2 inches in an hour. Additional rainfall amounts of another 1 to 2 inches. So that would put you at 2 to 4, ongoing or expected to begin shortly. That includes Roanoke, Vinton, Cave Spring, Salem, Roanoke Mountain, Hollins, all of the Roanoke Valley, basically. Not so much worried about Salem at the moment, but we've also got the southern end of the storm that we still have a special weather statement out for, because you see that little backward C, or it's actually a regular C. I believe that's still rotating in Franklin County. We've got some rotation, at least it's trying to. We've got some wind in there at least. Let's see what my rotation's showing here. Yeah, got a little bit of rotation near Windy Gap. It's not very pronounced going up in elevation here, but again, we're in that right on the edge of the tornado watch, and you can see here, if I show the storm relative velocity here a little bit higher up, you can see some rotation. So yeah, this one in Franklin County that's causing the flooding in Roanoke shortly, or right now, is also spinning. So we've got that two-prong effect there, where we're seeing not only a flood threat but also a tornadic threat. But there's no tornado warning out just yet. There are some high winds and some gusty winds in this thing, though. It's really trying to, where the greens are, it's really trying to pull in wind toward Floyd County, which again, the radar's here. So you see that little bit of green makes a huge difference in how we look at those storms. And as I put the take away the storm motion, you see the green gets more pronounced, right? Because now the storm is, in the radar's mind, stationary. So we're just looking at the wind within the storm. Roanoke's now up to 64 over 63 dew point. We've risen about 10 degrees over the past 24 hours. You can see the front. It's in red. It's a little hard to see, but it's right there. And again, these fronts tend to focus more spin, because if you look at, let's look at Giles County, 58 degrees at Mountain Lake. You've got a northeast wind. All right. So now let's go to Roanoke, where there's just heavy rain falling and no wind. And then you go to Lynchburg and down to Danville, and you've got southeast winds. So you've got northeast winds meeting southeast winds. And, just combining that difference in direction at the surface can initiate a tornado, or at least some rotation there. So that's why the special weather statement's in effect. And in fact, they've got that out for Troutville and Lehman Town in southern Botetourt County as well. And we have a tornado warning out for Roanoke. Okay, folks, share. I can't update my titles. Tornado warning for Roanoke. Let's get this out here. Until 12:45 p.m. At 12:23, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was over the city of Roanoke, east central Roanoke County, city of Roanoke, west central Bedford County here. So watch out around Vinton. I told you this thing was spinning here. This also includes Windy Gap in Franklin County. Again, it's spinning despite the fact it's moving over Windy Gap Mountain. And Roanoke City under a tornado warning. It's not every day you see that. That's how serious this setup is. The tornado warning does not include Starkey or Cave Spring, but it does include Roanoke City, and it does include parts of Windy Gap here. And as you move into the Hardy area of Bedford County, or right on the eastern flank of that, but I believe they're looking at this tail end here for the possibility of that tornado. That tornado warning is in effect until 12:45. We'll put the base velocity back on again. They were looking at it when we were looking at it, and that's why I like to stay on the air, because to a trained eye, you can pick out some of this stuff as it's happening, and you can see the rotation there. The green going toward the radar, the red going away from the radar. I'm looking at different tilts, so just excuse me while I kind of do some thinking there. Looking for debris. There could be some debris in that. It's hard to tell. Usually it becomes very obvious. But there's a bit of an inflow notch right through here coming out of Boone's Mill. That's where the updraft the warmer air near this front. And again, the front is right on the tornado warning. You know, the front, the warm front that separates the 75-degree air from the 58-degree air is sitting right over Boone's Mill and right over the Franklin County, Roanoke County line and right over Windy Gap. And it's no surprise that once that rain shower came out of Henry County, and I believe this is the same one that produced this damage, 2 trees down. So you can follow that. You can see that even before the tornado warning came out, it was producing damage. It moved just to the west of Rocky Mount, and now it's in effect for Roanoke. Pouring down rain, you've got kind of a weird situation. You need to get the higher ground in Roanoke if you're in a low spot, but you also need to get the low spots if you're in the tornado warning. I would go to the low spot if I were in eastern Roanoke County. Roanoke City to me looks more like heavy rain, but this circulation, let's see, if we put it in motion, it is moving generally to the north. And there's an updated image there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break off here for a second. I'm going to get this out as an image. I'm going to get my telestrator working, and I'm going to reconfigure here, but so I can redo my headlines. And I'll be right back. Tornado warning in Roanoke, also southern Botetourt County and western Bedford County, also Windy Gap in Franklin County. That is until 12:45. Very serious situation. Also a flash flood warning in effect. Take cover now. Don't wait for this thing. You're not going to be able to see it. It's pouring down rain. Just go ahead and get in a safe place. And let me reconfigure some stuff here on my technical end, get my weather service chat back up here, and I'll come back with more details